All right. I'm assuming you all had a minute to sign in the QR code. I believe there should be a t-shirt interest form at the end of this as well. So that way we can give you priority to the t-shirts at the end of the semester. Should be around GBM 3 time is when we hand those out. At the end of this GBM, we have leftover t-shirts from last semester, but you'll have to stick around because we don't want too much like commotion in the middle of the GBM. But yeah, stick around for those if you want an extra t-shirt from last semester. Um, Anyone else need the QR code still or okay, sounds good. All right, so we're gonna wait for I think we still need to pick up plates, so we're gonna give it a couple minutes on that. Sorry about the wait.
It should just be like 5 and 7 minutes.
All right, so today I just want to go over a couple new board members we added to the board. After that, we have a little semester recap of our past events. We have upcoming events for the rest of the semester, plus a little tournament sneak peek, pretty exciting news. And then dev team applications. Finally, what I'm assuming a lot of you came here for is our fireside chat with the Walmart software engineer. He's in the Zoom call right now, but we're going to give it a couple minutes to get to that point. Yeah, so you already know us. I'm Saurabh, I'm the president. We have Abhi, the vice president. Pranav, he's picking up the plates right now for the pizza, but he's our head of operations. And now we have a couple new hires. So Karthik is has been our workshop lead for a bit. Zain and Nyat, are you in the audience by chance? Welcome to the board to you two. On the outreach team, we have Han, and then our new hire, Kylie. She's here with us today. On the professional development team, underneath Daniel, we have Cameron and Lucas. Are you guys here? Welcome to the board. And then on the media and marketing team, we have Robert and then Srini. I believe Srini couldn't make it today. He had class. Another note about the head of media and marketing team, Robert's going to be coming around and taking pictures of you all. I believe in the interest form, it gave you a little heads up about that. If you don't want to be in the pictures, you might have to like sit in the back or something. Um, Finally, we have our product team. Yining is now joined by Nicholas, who will be leading the training team. Welcome to Nicholas. And we have a new team lead, Steve. I believe he also couldn't make it today, unfortunately. He'll be joining the other team leads to lead the Clubfinity project. Now, a little semester recap. We have photos taken by Robert, our head of media, from the past semester. So we had a React workshop, followed by a React Native workshop. Then we have a couple of pictures here of our bowling social, which was pretty fun. Unfortunately, we had like a bit of a short notice for this one's bowling social, but we still had a pretty good turnout. We have a bowling social coming up later in the semester as well, which will hopefully have more time, more pizza. There'll be like more collabs and everything. So we hope to see you guys there as well. Super fun time though. We just got to chill, play bowling, ping pong, table tennis. I think there's like a pool there too. And then finally, we had our perplexity workshop led by Abhi. A little note about the perplexity workshop. If you guys signed in last workshop's meeting, we had a little perplexity code giveaway that you all signed. We're still waiting on the sign up codes for those. You guys should have priority to the codes that we're giving out for the 6-month Perplexity Pro. But I believe the remainder should go to those who signed in the sign up form today. And now look at our upcoming events. If you want to take a picture of this, if you want to scan the Google Calendar, I know we've been having a couple issues with our Google Calendar. Just like the link is broken on Google Calendar's side, not from our side. But otherwise, you could take a picture of this. So one thing you'll notice is that we're still sticking with Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. We've been running into a couple conflicts with a lot of other clubs, which is unfortunate. I would have liked to go to some of these other clubs. I'm sure a lot of people who go to those clubs would also like to come to our events. We're looking into alternative days and times. As for now, we're sticking with these dates and these times, but all the announcements and updates are going to be posted on our Discord and our IG. But yeah, on our event calendar is where you'll find all our events, so you don't have to like add them manually, right? We have first off, next week is our Redis workshop, where we'll be covering databases and how they're used in the industry. Following that is our game room social. So like I mentioned before, we're gonna have the game room for 2 hours this time instead of 1 hour. Pizza, games, just to chill out. Following that is spring break, so unfortunately no workshop from SEC that week. And then after that is our cryptography workshop. Have you all had a chance to take pictures, everything you need? Cool. So, okay, this is something that I wanted to announce. I'm very excited to announce. This has been a couple months in planning. Um, it's been a lot of reaching out to a lot of other clubs, a lot of professors, this different departments. Software Engineering Club is announcing our first Leak Code tournament. So are any of you, by raise of hands, familiar with what Leak Code is? Have any of you done like an online assessment or a technical interview? Yeah, so Leak Code is super important for those looking into internships, into full-time roles. Leak Code is just like a name for any coding question you might find on like Leak Code, HackerRank, Code Signal, or anything like that. But we're going to be having a tournament filled with a couple like easies and medium questions. The winners will be getting, I believe we're looking at prizes like $100 gift cards or yearly Leak Code premiums. So if you sign this QR code, there's an interest form where you'll get to choose what the prizes might be. So fortunately, the Computer and Information Sciences and Engineering department believes in this tournament, so they've given us $1,000 for prize money, which is super exciting for us. And then we've also had a couple clubs reach out to collab, and then we've been able to get tips from them. So please sign in the interest form because we want a head count. You'll probably be hearing from us at like some other club GBMs, maybe in your classes as well. But that should be in a month from now on March 29th. That is a Saturday. Um, have you all had a chance to scan that? Nice.
You guys can choose like the dates, and everything on that too. So it's not like decided on a specific date yet. We have like 3 in mind. So it's really just what you guys are most comfortable with. You guys can choose the prizes too. Yeah, so scan that out. Yeah.
We have to iron out a lot of the tiny details, which is why I really want you to sign in the interest form so you can give us your comments. And then any other comments, just feel free to DM us in Discord or just message us in the Discord.
We'll also have an announcement on this shortly on the Discord. If you wanna, I mean, preferably fill out the interest form now, but we'll send out the details as we decide on them based on you guys' preferences.
Now we'll have Yinning speak a bit about Pubfinity.
Yeah, so we announced at the last GBM, but Affinity Dev Team applications are still open. This is a great way to gain experience with a lot of industry level tools such as the MERN stack, Expo, Docker, and a lot of other tools. Yeah, so applications will close on March 2nd. And for anyone who doesn't have that much experience, we also have a Affinity training program where you'll be able to learn the MERN stack. And so, yeah, so don't be afraid to apply if you don't think you have enough experience. And then on the next slide, there should be yeah, so we're just gonna leave this QR code up for a little bit for anybody who might want to scan it.
A little update, by the way. I know a lot of you are still waiting on your applications from earlier in the semester. We were waiting on a new training lead before we went through with hiring. So unfortunately, we weren't able to hire from that batch. But applications for this close on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday. There's nothing like too complex about the application. Highly recommend applying. If you decide you don't want to do it, there's no risk involved. Like Yinning said, if you don't feel you have enough experience, we have a beginner training program where we take you through a lot of the basics for the MERN stack. I know a lot of you expressed interest in our React workshops and how you want it to be more of like a weekly series, rather than just like single workshops. Uh, Unfortunately, that's not like super practical for us, which is why we have a comprehensive training program, to take you through like all of the MERN stack in detail. Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to find this, we'll probably be posting the link on Discord finally, after this meeting. And now for our fireside chat with Xander.
All right, guys, so we're gonna start the fireside chat now, if you guys are ready for that. So I'm just gonna introduce Andrew real quick.
All right, I just talked about Clubfinity a bit. Yinning is our like current head of product. Xander right here is our previous head of product. Last semester was Mike. Before that was Xander. So he led Clubfinity for I believe 9 months.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So he has a lot of experience with Clubfinity. But now he's working full time in Walmart in San Francisco, right?
The Bay Area, yeah.
The Bay
So close
Area. So I'm gonna let Daniel take over. He's gonna ask a couple questions. After that, we're gonna open up the audience to questions as well. But yeah, you can take it over from here.
Nice. All right, Xander. So first off, can you tell the audience a bit about yourself and your journey to becoming a software engineer at Walmart?
Just to make
Yeah.
sure in the audience here, that's okay, right? Okay.
Yeah, I can turn it up a little bit. All right, sorry about that. I'll just repeat the question. So, can you tell the audience a bit about yourself and your journey to becoming a software engineer at Walmart?
Yeah. So hey everyone, my name is Xander. To give some background, I originally grew up in France. I moved to the US when I was about 14-ish, when I started high school. I moved to the Tampa Bay area, and then I later joined UF, where I did my undergrad degree in computer science. And during that time, there's, I guess, two main points. Is the first that I was a part of SEC, the Clubfinity project. And another point is that I interned during my junior year, so the summer of my junior year, at Walmart. More specifically, it's called technically Walmart Global Tech. It's like the tech branch of Walmart. And so I interned there. I interned in the Bay Area. And once I finished that, I was able to get a return offer. And so I finished my degree and senior year, I went ahead and joined back the team here at Walmart.
Nice, nice. Can you tell us a bit about your team and your role, like specifically within the team?
Yeah. So what my team does, it's called last mile. Well, the overall sector, I guess you can call it, is last mile delivery. Okay. So if you may or may not know what that is, the concept of last mile delivery in simple is delivery. It's like the last section of delivery. So you go from like a fulfillment center, or in this case, a store, to the customer's home. Okay, so Walmart is trying to grow its e-commerce business. So you might see that like I'm pretty sure the second biggest e-commerce platform in the US behind Amazon. A little bit like far behind, but still a second. And so whenever you place an order on Walmart, you mainly have like three options, right? You can pick up the order, you can get it delivered from the store, you can get it shipped. Okay, well the second option, delivered from store, is basically what our team works on. So in this system, we basically have this platform called Walmart Spark. Right, so you might be familiar with these gig delivery platforms like DoorDash, Instacart, where you have drivers on contracts, the freelancers, and they will deliver for a specific company. Walmart has a very similar platform, Walmart Spark, where it has a bunch of gig drivers that are all around the US. They're also technically in Canada and Mexico. And they basically deliveries from store to home. So my team, Last Mile Delivery, focuses on orchestrating that whole process of, we have the gig delivery platform, we have the stores, and making sure that orders get delivered from the stores to the customer's home. That's basically what my team focuses on. Now, again, there's a lot of teams in last mile delivery. If I won't go into too much details, but you have like the payments aspect, you have like the driver assignment aspect, my team specifically, it's called dispatcher. And you could sort of think of it as like the brains of the operation or sort of the orchestration of everything. So from start to end, the delivery life cycle goes through our services. So that's my team's purpose. And within that team, I'm just a software engineer like everyone else.
Yeah, a lot of impact though. I mean, that seems like it's reaching like a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a very interesting field and it's rapidly growing. I don't quote me the exact numbers, and I don't even know if the exact numbers are out there. But if I recall correctly, the platform was doing around like 100,000 orders a few years back, and nowadays we're like I'm pretty sure above 1 million a day.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's rapidly growing. It's a very interesting sector, right? It's like real time. You have all these drivers going around. I think something like 200,000 drivers are on the platform at all times, or something like that. So it's a very, very interesting sector. Yeah.
nice, nice. Can you share a bit about like a typical day, what it looks like for you as a software engineer at Walmart? Maybe like some of the tasks you work on, some of like, like on an hourly basis, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I love to tell you that my schedule is 9 to 5. It's not.
Hmm.
It can go sometimes longer, but I think that's just the reality of things at times. But usually what will happen is in the morning, you'll have your Scrum meeting. So those that are in Clofinity or familiar with Scrum in general, I think it might still be taught in one of that software engineering intro class.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
intro to software engineering. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you have your typical Scrum meeting every single morning. You go over your team's updates. You have your tickets. So you work in this sprints of they're 2 weeks long, and you're assigned a task, and you might be assigned multiple tasks over a sprint.
Mhm.
And you're kind of just like going at each ticket one at a time, and completing them. And dev work can be like the tasks you do can vary a lot. You can be fully focused in development, as in, I don't know, like one feature I worked on was when drivers arrive at the store, right? In order for them and the store associate to somewhat like communicate or connect, they need to select a parking slots.
Okay.
So you might see if you go to Walmart, you see a bunch of these parking slots which are numbered, sorry. And basically the idea is I worked on a feature where in the past these parking slots were somewhat hard coded, like every store, no matter where in Walmart, had just hard coded 1 to 100 slots. But for certain scenarios that varies. So I worked on a feature where these parking slots, for example, would be set up on a store basis. So each store would set up their parking slots. And there's like a whole implication behind that, but that's like an example feature I worked on. Or you might also just worked on just infra stuff. Like for example, there is these recent requirements. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say this, but like recent requirements to like put security on all of our services, so that everyone that calls a service A, like service A calls service B needs to know who service A is. So setting up that infrastructure for authentication, that sort of stuff, you might also work on that. That's less development, it's more so configuration stuff. But that's just a wide variety of tasks you might work on as a dev, or at least in Walmart, I guess.
Yeah. So you kind of recommend working with like a wide range of extensive stuff, not just like, Python, C++, but if you're interested in full stack, learning authentication, maybe you're using OAuth or Firebase, something like that. Just like getting the wide range.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And again, I'm back end more focused. So I'm not really touching on front end stuff. But in terms of back end, yes, there is so many different topics you might touch on. It can be a bit overwhelming at first, but you learn a lot.
Definitely.
And to sort of answer back your question, like what is a typical day? So the morning I said Scrum.
Mhm.
Then the main day, you'll probably just have like, you'll meet with colleagues here and there if you have an issue. And then at night, and again, this varies by team, but at least in our team, we have releases. Okay, so this is something that you might not be familiar with at the university level, except if you have like an internship or something like that. But obviously, when you write this code, right, you got to deploy this code.
Yeah.
So you do releases. I mean, all teams have different kind of releases, right? You might have teams that release once every quarter. You might have teams that release multiple times a day. But in our case, we do releases about like, I don't know, like a couple times a week, and we do those at nights, right? And the reason why we do those at night is because traffic is low. Most of our traffic is, in the US, or like at least in the Americas. So once comes nighttime here in PST in California, most traffic is on the down. It's relatively low. And so those are the times we do releases. So releases are a part of the, the development life cycle at Walmart here, and I think at most companies, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually didn't know it's like at night. I think that's something that's interesting to know because yeah, I guess that makes sense. Traffic is low, so you don't want to affect like actual customers. Um
Yeah, but I have heard it varies quite a bit. Like for
mhm.
example, I have a friend that works in like when you go to Walmart.com, the search bar.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on behind that search bar. He told me that apparently they do deployments in the day, which somewhat
Mm,
surprised me, but I guess, every team has their own standards, their own process.
interesting, interesting. So I think this is a really good question for the people here. Most of them are looking for internships and they're wondering, how does the return offer process work? What kind of differs when you're actually working full time? So, can you share your experience transitioning from being an intern to a full-time engineer?
Yeah, I think the main difference is, and this probably varies so much by company to company, but when you are an intern, it feels like they somewhat limit you in the amount of knowledge they throw at you. Maybe not to overwhelm you at first.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're probably working on your task and you're probably sort of in this bubble where you're not exposed to everything of your service, like in your team. But in the case for at least the team I was working on, and I still work on, when I transitioned to full time, there was so much to learn. It quickly became overwhelming. And I think that's the biggest difference between an internship and a full time. And again, that might change from company to company. But just having the overwhelming amount of information when you join full time, like they'll start pushing everything on you.
Yeah.
When you intern, you're still sort of learning, and they don't want to go too hard on you. Um, but yeah, I feel like you're exposed to a lot more once you start that full time position.
Okay. And do you have any advice on kind of getting through that like overwhelming amount of information thrown at you? Do they have like documentation or something to help you out with that or
Documentation is a bit of a tricky situation. I mean, I feel like some teams have amazing documentation.
Mhm.
Some teams are just lacking documentation. So I think the best part is to just focus on the human aspect and just connect with the people on your team.
Mhm.
Um, at first, you might seem like you're asking a lot of questions, but I feel like just do. There's nothing bad in asking questions. And sometimes I just have a document and I just list like 10, 20 questions. And I'd connect with someone on my team. I just go through all those questions, or at least as many as I could. And you start learning little by little. And also the part you have to remember is that you can't just grasp everything at once. Things are going to take time. And if you try like, if you might just go in a burnout if you try to like learn everything at once, and it was kind of crazy. So just take your time, but also reach out to the people. They have the people on your team are the people that have the most knowledge on the product that you're working on. So yeah, just leverage those human connections, I'd say.
Definitely. And I like that you mentioned like documenting things. I think that's the biggest thing, documenting the questions you have on a day-to-day basis, documenting what you're actually doing. So like when it comes for stand up or when it comes for like a performance evaluation, you have something to like present, right? So I think
Correct. Yeah.
that's great, great advice. Um, Another thing is you mentioned you're more like back-end focused. So what is the tech stack like on your team? If you can talk about it, if not, it's no
Yeah,
worries.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's a funny story because I remember some companies like Apple, I don't think they're allowed to share their tech stack, or at least there were some
mm,
interns that they did not want to share the tech stack. But we at
yeah.
least I think can. I haven't received a notice of anything, but so basically what we work on in the back end is we use Java
Okay.
mainly. We use Spring Boot for the framework. So that's the main technology we use, and a lot of teams here at Walmart use Java Spring. In fact, I think a lot of companies use Java Spring.
Definitely. Yeah.
Um, then that's maybe some technology that you're exposed to somewhat in university level. But then you have certain technologies that I don't think you're really exposed to at university level and are really crucial in at least in our architecture. And like for example, is Kafka. So Kafka is an asynchronous messaging system where basically instead of service A calls service B through an API call, right? It might just put a message in this pipeline, and then message B will just ingest those messages at whatever rate they need to ingest those messages. Kafka is one of the key tools in the whole like last mile delivery architecture here at Walmart, and I think it's a key tool in a lot of companies, and something that is definitely not well documented at the university level. And I think that people should expose themselves to this sort of technology. Other stuff that we use, obviously, like we have the traditional DBs. Like we have some SQL DBs, we have some NoSQL DBs. I believe you do learn SQL DBs in a database.
Yeah. You have like It's called MariaDB, so it's yeah, not like Postgres or anything, but it's like a MySQL sort of copy, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure you really learn NoSQL databases in university courses, but you probably get exposed to them at some point. Maybe if you do like a project using MongoDB or Firebase, you'll probably use NoSQL. So nothing, really special there. Then you also have, tools that you might just not think of at the, I guess the university level projects. Um, Things where like you're logging, Splunk. Splunk is a huge part of our tech stack. Splunk just logs everything in our services, right? So whenever you put a log, it just logs it there, and then you can access it through your dashboard. That sort of stuff, like Grafana. Grafana is used for metrics, right? So everything has a metrics in every service, right? The number of requests coming in, the latency, the amount of exceptions, everything has metrics, and those are so important to the team's like development lifecycle and in everyday operations. And those are just things that you might not be aware of at the university level. But maybe, if you deep dive into them, but you can have an advantage over others, I'd say.
Definitely, definitely. That's great advice. So you mentioned like it's, Kafka, these sort of things, you don't really learn them in college. So how's the tech stack you're working with now kind of compared to what you've actually learned throughout your time in college, maybe during your time on Clubfinity as well?
Yeah, so I'll break that in two parts. First, compared to what I learned in university, I'd say there's a pretty big difference. Again, at the university level, I'm trying to recall everything you learn. And you obviously learn Java. I think they might actually switch to Python nowadays in the first programming classes, right?
Yeah, it's Python then C++ for like object oriented.
Yeah. So okay, you do learn that. I guess so no more Java, but you learn like those basic languages. But when you start like adventuring into frameworks, I feel like that's more so something that you probably have to do yourself. They don't really teach you at the university level or like in classes. So I'd say the tech stack is very different from what you do at in classes in university. However, it doesn't differ too much from what you do at like a club like SEC when you work in Club Fitting. That tech stack will resemble much more what at least how Walmart operates or how a lot of companies probably operate. So I think that's like one of the main advantages of working on Clubfinity or working on these large scale projects is that you're exposed to tools that you wouldn't be using on small scale projects like you do for classes or like you're doing on the side. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Basically, Clubfinity is close to what we do. University classes is probably not very close, I'd say.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that's one thing that because you got to teach so many things, right? They don't really touch on some of the backend frameworks you might use, some of the other stuff. So I think joining if it's not even Clubfinity, getting used to like other sort of frameworks. You mentioned Java Spring Boot. That's a massive combo. I've seen a lot. T-Mobile, a lot of other companies use it. So just getting used to other frameworks besides just Python and C++ itself is a huge advantage. So you kind of touched on the other part, which was like how you led Clubfinity's product team and how that's actually helped you currently in your current role. You said it's like kind of, giving you more experience to like a wider framework of technologies, like the full stack really. So the next question is, how have your interests actually changed in computer science throughout your time in college and then after starting work as a full-time software engineer?
Yeah, and I think this will completely vary from person to person. At least for me, one part that I've definitely found myself to enjoy more and more is sort of that product mindset. Okay, so when you work on these small projects in university classes, it's fine, it's temporary. But when you start building a product and really putting a lot of work into it, for example, Clubfinity, or for example, when I'm working here, this last mile delivery platform, you start growing this like product mindset where you're sort of attached to the product and you want it to thrive. You're not really just doing work because it's work. You're more so doing work because you want the product to thrive. And it's probably much easier at a club footy level because again, it's a volunteer position. You're not obligated to work.
Yeah.
When you go to work, it's a little bit harder to build that connection. But having that product mindset, I feel, is something that I've grown a lot into over the years, especially when I started joining Club Fitting. And yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest interest. As if like technical stuff, not much. I say I was always sort of leaning towards backend. And I think that has kind of just stayed the same. So I'd say my interest hasn't haven't really moved technically so much, but more so that product mindset that you get on working on these big projects and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like rewarding when you actually see your code, maybe affected in live time. That's something like I've definitely experienced, seeing like your work actually affect a product to play.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So another question I had was, do you have any advice for students looking to land a software engineering internship or new grad role? Because it is kind of that time, people are still looking for internships, opportunities for the summer, full time. Do you have any advice that maybe something that's helped you out personally?
So the way I see it, to be completely honest, is there's either one of two options. One is you have like an insane resume. You've built a lot of different, a lot of cool things, right? And most likely interviews are going to come to you. Okay. Second option, most of us, me included, like 90, 95%, I don't know what, it's a numbers game. It really is a numbers game. It's about how much like you're applying, like just apply, apply, apply. It really, and I think that's like the biggest advice I have. And the second biggest advice the one that I regret the most is not doing it early enough, right? I told you guys that my first internship was in my junior year. I highly regret that. I really do wish I had done it, at least a sophomore, even maybe freshman internship. Because that experience is gonna like be so valuable on your resume. It really will be. So I think that's the two biggest pieces of advice. It's a numbers game, keep applying. And second, do it early, And then some extra things that are also nice is just build cool things, right? Build solo projects, come on these like these big projects like Clubfinity. You will learn things that you will not learn in class for sure. And you might not even learn on your solo projects, right? For example, Clubfinity, you're working on a large code base, right? You're going through these scrum meetings, you're doing through these 2-week sprint process. You're reviewing PRs, you're submitting PRs, that sort of stuff you probably won't be doing on small projects. And that sort of skills you'll learn are so valuable when you join a company, like Walmart or whatever tech company. So those are sort of my pieces of advice I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Finding
that's great advice. I think definitely one of the biggest things is, doing stuff early. As soon as these opportunities drop, you kind of want to apply because you're competing with thousands of people. I think I mentioned this in one of the previous GBMs. But yeah, doing things early, doing the OA early, because you can really get messed up if you have to delay a round or something like that. Um, and then I like that you mentioned, cool projects, things that like interest you specifically. Because that makes you want to do it more. That makes you want to put in more work to make it a better project. And yeah, I think that's great advice. So the last question is, what is your plan over the next few years?
Over the next few years. So mainly what I've been thinking, and I've always had this thought, is I'd probably do 1 year at Walmart and then sort of move on. It's probably not what my boss wants to hear, but that's the reality of things. And I think there's a few reasons for that. And I think this is the main reason is that I kind of want to be exposed to different development environments. What do I mean by that is I've ultimately only experienced one type of professional development environment, and that is Walmart. I have somewhat of an idea of how other companies might operate, but I really don't. I really don't have a clear idea of how they operate. So I don't know if what I'm experiencing right now is amazing or terrible. Honestly, I don't have a benchmark, to go off of. And I want to expose myself to different environments to see, okay, maybe I prefer something else, or maybe, maybe what I'm doing right now is great, is amazing. So my plan is probably to switch over, and a year mark would be sometime in July. So maybe at a year and a half mark, try to switch companies, and try to maybe go to a company that's a little bit more fast paced, a little bit more scrappy, and that takes more risk, less I guess politics or all those things or like even to submit a small change into the code, it takes like a whole process. Maybe that type of company, I enjoy more. But again, I don't know. I haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
And so this connects back to what I said before. Try to, do as many internships as possible because you'll experience different development environments and you'll see what you like. There might be a company you don't like and might be a company like you'll love, You don't know, how they operate until you've experienced it. So I think mainly my plan forward is, switch companies, try to find a company where I really do, I feel good and I'm confident I want to stay here and maybe grow for another like 4 or 5 years and try to, climb up those positions. Yeah, that's probably the main plan at the moment.
Yeah, and you see a lot of software engineers do it, kind of job hopping from time to time. And I think it's really the perspective you mentioned. It's not only like the salary increase, anything like that. I think to make you like the best dev possible, you kind of want to experience different sort of things, environments. And you touched a bit on this earlier, but kind of just starting early, looking for internships or opportunities. I honestly didn't like it didn't even cross my mind until mid sophomore year. And then I was like scrambling to pick something up. So definitely starting early if you can. If not, then just really no big deal. Everything eventually, works out. But yeah, now
Agreed.
we're just gonna open up the floor for if anyone has any questions. Anyone have any questions? All right, great. Yeah, one. What's up?
Um, Besides Infinity, what other personal projects did you do?
That's a great question. Did you hear Xander?
Can you repeat it just in case?
Yeah, so he said, besides Clubfinity, what are some other personal projects you've done?
Okay, so there's mainly two things. So Clubfity is the main one. But besides that, there's mainly two things. The first is just small passion projects. So one sector I really enjoy is music. Okay, so I built a few different, music focused. One was an app, one was a website. Music focused, small projects. I spent maybe like 6 to 8 weeks on it, and just build something kind of cool that I like and enjoy. Those are sort of the projects I focused on, I guess, later in my university career, I guess you can say. Before that, I was also heavily involved in sort of like, it's kind of hard to explain, but like e-commerce automations. So a lot of script writing. So that was like a whole other sector. It's completely different than normal software engineering. And I guess those are the two main projects I worked on besides Plumfity. So scripting, e-commerce automations. And then the second part was just these small passion projects, like mixing in things I like to do, like music and technology, and building something around that. So yeah, those were my two main projects. Hopefully that answers your question.
Nice, yeah. I like the e-commerce thing. That kind of relates. I think that relates to Walmart a little bit. It's
Yeah, it's a somewhat of a complicated area, but yeah, it's linked to e-commerce and doing automation, API call automation, that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's a really interesting sector though.
nice. Do we have any questions in chat or any more questions anyone has? Okay, nice. I think you were first, sir.
Like, have you tried recruiting as a new grad? Any differences?
He was asking, have you tried doing like recruiting as a new grad? Like, what's your experience with that if you did try?
As in like recruiting post being hired here?
So like post your internship, your senior year,
Okay.
yeah, if you went like through the new grad recruiting or if you just accepted your return offer.
Yeah, no, I definitely did new grad recruiting.
Mhm.
I wish it went better, but it did not. So, I mean, in reality, I think I ended up, I got somewhat close to possibly getting an offer from DoorDash. That fell through. That was a bummer. That was really a bummer. And then I had another offer from a company, I believe I forgot, UiPath. I think they're in Seattle area or Bellevue. So new grad was trying to think if it was harder or easier than intern. I'd say maybe it was a little bit harder. Mainly because I feel like people had much better resumes compared to me coming in. Even though I had all these projects, like I said, I only had one internship. And I feel like those that, had the best opportunities sometimes had 2, 3 or internships.
Definitely, yeah.
So that was, the process I went through. It wasn't the best. But ultimately I ended up having one additional offer, so UiPath. But I quickly realized that Walmart, although, Walmart as a brand doesn't maybe sometimes have the best reputation, their reach in terms of technology is pretty massive. And I knew the sector I was going into, last mile delivery, which is pretty interesting. There's a lot of competition against DoorDash, Instacart, Uber, whatever. So that's ultimately the reason why I decided to come back. But yeah, to answer your question, it wasn't super easy. The market wasn't really good, and I think unfortunately the market I've heard is still not the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of my experience there.
Yeah. So do you think like when you're getting reached out by these companies, you mentioned DoorDash. Do you think it's kind of like based off your similar experience with Walmart? You said it was like a competing sort of product.
Yeah, that I don't think. I mean, you see, I'm not really sure if that had any impact. That I had like last mile delivery on my resume. It might have. It might not have. I'm honestly not sure. But it's definitely a topic to bring up. During the interviews, for example, if you worked on something that's related to the company, I'd say definitely bring it up because it did spark a conversation. Um, so it was somewhat related, in any of your process, but in terms of whether they reached out to me because of that, I'm honestly not sure. Yeah.
But I think that's a key point right there is, mentioning products that you might have that they're working on, but like you've also kind of had similar experience on. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think we had more questions. Nice. What's your question?
You said stressing the importance of internships.
Mhm.
Would you, if you had a bad internship experience, would you delay graduation to get another internship before trying to do new grad? Oh, wow.
Okay. So, so his question was, if you had a bad internship experience, would you, decide to postpone graduation to get another internship?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
If it were me, I would say no. I think I'd just like to, if it was personally me, again, this is subjective, but I'd just like to jump into the new grad opportunities and, experience a different type of work, and not stay university level. I think you could quickly, once you join the workforce, quickly jump companies. So I don't know if it's technically worth it to, delay your university graduation like a whole year or half a semester maybe, but like a whole year.
Yeah.
Seems to maybe be like a lot, but again, it's completely subjective. I don't also bad experience. I'm not sure exactly what that entails.
From my understanding, it's probably like, you just didn't, maybe it's management or maybe it's the culture itself. Yeah. So I think it's maybe, yeah, something to do with like management or maybe just poor culture, even maybe, you don't like what you're actually working on.
I'd say if you don't like what you're working on, then maybe it is worth taking some more time and try to figure out what do you really like.
Mhm.
I think that is very important. I think, obviously, money in the software engineering world is nice. I think that's like a reason why a lot of people have, gravitated towards it. But at the end of the day, you have to enjoy what you do. I really, really do believe in that.
Yeah.
If you did not enjoy your internship experience, maybe take some more time and try to, explore different paths, and the world of CS is massive. There's so many different paths you can take here. It doesn't have to be software engineering, really. So yeah, if it was that sort of experience, it maybe take more time. Yeah.
Yeah. Does that answer your question or?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
that's great.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions anyone has? Nice. All right. So yeah, I think that's it. Unless we're done with that. Okay. Nice. Yeah. So it's already 7:30 on the dot. You did great. Yeah, thank you so much, Xander, for taking the time. I know you just finished being on call, so kind of just enjoy the rest of the week, just enjoy Mountain View a little bit. So yeah.
Will do, will do.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well, thank you for having me, by the way.
of course, yeah. Let me just